I'm back. What's up, everybody? How are we doing today? And the Gripe Session podcast is live and back on the air. Please accept my apologies. It's been really busy. I've had these episodes, for lack of a better term, in storage, in the archives, and just haven't had time to upload them and get them out to you. And one of my real good friends, Rory Pitts, lit a fire underneath my rear end. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to figure it out once he listens to this podcast. And basically kind of said to me, George, you got to get up off your rear end and get these things out. So that's what I'm doing today. It's my pleasure to re-debut the Gripe Session podcast to you guys and girls. If, just as an FYI, if you guys find some value in this content, please do me a favor. Tell somebody about it. Give me a rate and review, and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play. Would greatly appreciate it. Today's podcast, quite frankly, is going to go around the subject of mortgages. And one of the things that we always find out a lot about is the fact that a lot of people want to pay down their mortgage and get rid of debt a lot quicker. Well, there is a way of doing that without getting a biweekly mortgage and without all of these other factors that a lot of people talk about. So listen up, check it out, and I hope you enjoy the podcast.
It's Gripe Session time with your host, George Wanaka.
It's about nothing.
Discussing everything from real estate, current events, a little bit of everything, and the annoying little things that just tick you off.
You can't handle the truth.
What? You didn't know?
Here's your host, George Wanaka.
Your ass better call somebody.
What's up, everybody? How are we doing today? Welcome to today's edition of the Gripe Session podcast. Now, granted, I'm going to be doing a little something here today that's a little bit different. One of the things that I like to do is share the knowledge, right? I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. So I'm going to put this up on YouTube. So for those of you that listen to this and want to see exactly what I'm talking about in a visual way, not just an audio way, feel free to go to my YouTube channel, which is searchstatinisland.com, and you'll get to see me basically give this point of view. Now, what's today's topic about? Well, it's really simple, guys and girls. Today's topic is about how do you pay your mortgage off on a 30-year fixed or a 20-year fixed or a 15-year fixed, quite frankly, early. How do you do that, right? People talk about, well, you make extra payments, and that's what you do. You just make an extra payment. Well, yeah, but also no, that's not entirely how you would do it as well. But there's one thing when you're gonna look to have that financial freedom of what you're gonna do. One of those things that what you're gonna do is the first thing you have to have is a word, right? And it's the D word, right? Now, yes, we are an explicit podcast, so but we're not getting explicit yet. The D word is discipline. Okay, that's the D word. You got to have discipline in order to do what I'm about to show you or explain to you on this podcast, and what you could see the video later on. You got to have discipline in order to do this, right? So everyone always talks about putting money away and spending money and things of that nature, but the problem is that a lot of us don't have that discipline to be able to do some of the things that I'm going to show you. So that's why I want to put this out there. Now, people say, well, how do you do all of this stuff and you're able to pay off mortgages and things of that nature and earlier and you're a young person, that kind of stuff? Well, it comes down to that one word. It comes down to discipline, right? So first thing you have to do is say, this is something I want to do. This is a goal. And this is how I'm going to go achieve that goal. Sometimes it might not be going out for dinner. Sometimes it might not be hitting that movie or getting that new dress or whatever that happens to be for you. Whatever that, playing around the golf. I don't play golf anymore because of the kids, but that's a whole nother conversation. So that's where that savings comes from. That's where you can sometimes get financial freedom from. So what I'm going to basically do right now is I am going to share my screen with the people watching this podcast on YouTube. And how exactly I'm going to do this is very simple. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a loan amount of, let's say, $200,000, okay? Which is a very low loan amount nowadays, but it is what it is. We'll put in an interest rate of, let's say, 4.25%. And the loan period, as you can see here, is 30 years. For those of you that can't see, we're doing a 30-year fixed at 4.25%, okay? We're going to do the start date of the loan. Since I'm doing this in May, we're going to start this in June, okay? So now you see your monthly payments. You get a normal monthly payment of principal and interest only of $983.88 with 360 of those payments. Now, obviously, the only time that your payment will increase under this scenario is in the event that if you're having taxes and insurance put into this payment, when those would essentially do that, right? So that being said, what we're going to do now is we're going to look over here at our first payment here, and it says the payment, your very first payment, which is not due in June, it's due in July, because when you close and you take out the loan, they already take 30 days of interest ahead of time. So your first payment is going to be July. But now watch what this is. This is going to be how you see every payment you see. If you went all the way down your spreadsheet, your payment doesn't change. Again, that's the whole purpose of a 30-year fixed loan, right? Now, here's your trick, okay? If we look at our first payment and our principal is $275.55, as we can see here, and my interest is $708.33. The way that the banks do it is you pay your interest up front. What happens, meaning, is your principal is the lowest in the beginning, and then it gets bigger and bigger as the loan gets paid off. Now, why do the banks do this? Well, it's very simple. They want their money first. They want their interest first. So as you're paying off your loan, now your principal increases. That's the reason why they do that. Now, here's how you beat the bank. What you do is, when you make your first payment of $983.88, the way I was taught was, if I have that extra $276, if we're looking at my next payment, once I make that payment, we now revert. I'm going to highlight this for those watching on YouTube. That's my first payment, okay, of $983.88. Now, here's the thing. If I make my next payment, my next principal payment of $276.52, if I make that payment in July, okay, now how do you do that? Once you write out your first payment in a check of $983 and change, you write out another check, separate check, for $276.52. What does that do, George? Well, here's what it does. I mail that in and I put out, this is my extra principal payment, and I do it in separate checks, so nobody that's looking at this at the bank can confuse it and say, oh, it's one solid payment. That's why I separate it. Now, if you watch this on YouTube, here's what happens. So the following month, that's the payment that you're making, and you're only making the principal, you're not making the interest. Because you make that principal before it's due, your interest, which would be at that time $707.36, now gets eliminated. Okay? And what happens is, now, when you go to make your next payment, if we could see here, this is now your payment date is eliminated. And what happens is, your next payment in August, your principal balance is going to be this $199.170 situation. Okay, excuse me, $199,447.93. So basically what I did, I just do by making a $276.52 payment. I saved $700. $707.36 I saved by making a $276 payment. So your total savings is just under $500 for that month alone. Now, as we all say, you have to have the discipline to put this money aside, okay, to consistently do it. And what ends up happening is bit by bit, you'll start to see your payments, your loan value, and your the maturity of the loan, of when that loan gets paid off. You'll start to see the months come back up. Okay, so as opposed to 360 payments, you might now be less. Now, why do I do it this way and not do a bi-weekly or a multi-weekly or whatever it hey come out with the programs? Well, why do I do it this way? Well, it's real simple. The reason, and I'm going to get out of this now, the reason that I do it that way is because, ladies and gentlemen, things in life come up, right? What comes up in life? Well, water heaters, kids' expenses, things of that nature. Things come up when you own a house. So what this does is it allows me to make that payment at my own leisure. If things come up and I can't make that payment for whatever reason, then I just don't make that payment, and I'm not penalized for it. If I take out a biweekly mortgage or something along those lines and I don't make that payment, it's a missed mortgage payment. So this is a way of helping you cut your mortgages down and not paying the amount of interest that you would be paying over 30 years. But you got to do it in the beginning of the loan, because that's when your lowest principal is going to be done. That is the best way to help you from a financial aspect. It's the best way to get you to pay off your mortgage early, which everybody wants to do, so you don't have as much debt. So that's today's trick on today's Gripe Session podcast. I hope you found some value in this. If you did find value in this podcast and in this video, do me a favor, tell somebody about it, subscribe to our podcast, rate and review our podcast as well, and also visit me on the other social medias on YouTube, also on Instagram at the Gripe Session Podcast, as well as Facebook. I thank you guys for listening and watching today, and I hope you guys have a great day. Keep smiling and do something nice for somebody that you would normally do. Take care. Hey, thanks for checking out that episode of the Gripe Session Podcast. If you liked it or found what I just gave you some valuable content, please do me a favor, share it with somebody that you think might help. Also, in case they don't know how to operate podcasts, that's not a problem. You can go to my YouTube channel, searchstatenisland.com, and check out this episode of the Gripe Session Podcast on there as well. So please feel free to share it. And don't forget, we have another episode coming up next week. And it's my good friend Jason Frazier of now Shred Media, who's also known as the Agent Marketeer, who's also now known on social media sections as the Snarky Marketer. Now, I'm sarcastic, so normally that would kind of go within me, which is why Jason and I get along so well. So that being said, I hope you guys have a super fantastic day. Do something nice for somebody you wouldn't normally do, and we'll catch you on the next edition of The Gripe Session.
Thanks for listening to The Gripe Session. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.